I was 17 when I realized love in my family came with strings attached. Not devotion, not affection, just the price of what I could offer them. It was a sticky August morning when my mom stormed into my room, clutching a lease contract in one hand and a calculator in the other. "Your sister found her perfect apartment," she said, her tone dripping with honey. "She just needs a cosiner, that's you." I blinked. "I'm 17. My dad snickered from the doorway. "Exactly. You've got no debt, a clean credit score, banks eat that up." They always spoke over me like that, like I was a means to an end, not their daughter. I hesitated. "What if she doesn't pay?" Mom's smile twisted into a sneer. "Don't be so theatrical, Alyssa. It's not about her paying, it's about family. She's your sister." "She also racked up 3 credit cards in my name," I said, my voice unsteady. That's when their facade cracked. Dad barged in, his face red with anger. "You ungrateful little thing. We put a roof over your head, feed you, and now you're playing the victim." "Who raised you?" "You did," I said softly. "But that doesn't mean I'll wreck my future for her." That one sentence shifted everything. By nightfall, I was gone. No heads up, no farewell, just my suitcase on the porch and a voicemail. "If you're too good for us, don't come back." I crashed in my friend Brianna's garage for 2 weeks. No heat, no bathroom, just a space heater and a leaky air mattress. But for the first time, I wasn't tiptoeing around their expectations. I worked night shifts at a diner and took community college classes by day. I earned scholarships through sheer determination. Sleep was scarce, but I kept pushing. I refused to become the failure they expected. Meanwhile, my sister posted polished selfies from rooftop lounges and rented resort pools. Every time she grinned for the camera, I remembered the night they cast me out to keep her comfortable. 4 years later, I saw my parents again. I just secured a full-ride transfer to a top university. I was waiting tables on weekends when they walked in. Mom, decked out in pearls like she was heading to church. Dad acting like nothing had ever happened. "Alyssa," Mom said, her voice artificially bright, "we knew you'd end up in a place like this." They didn't order anything. They just slid a letter across the table, a demand for $22,000 to cover a car they'd leased for my sister. "A Mercedes, you owe her," Mom hissed. "You abandoned her when she needed you." "I was homeless," I shot back. Dad leaned in. "Well, you seem fine now." That was the moment I made a promise. They'd never see a dime of my success. I put myself through college. I interned without pay. I couch-surfed and skipped meals. Then I landed a job in aviation finance. Within 5 years, I'd built my own consulting firm. By year 6, I owned my first small jet, paid in full, no loans, no favors. On the 11th anniversary of the day they threw me out, I returned to that town in my own plane. They didn't recognize me at first, not until the pilot opened the door and I stepped out in heels they couldn't afford even if they sold their home. Their jaws hit the floor, but I wasn't there to chat. I was there to reclaim something they'd long forgotten they owed me: respect. The town hadn't changed much. Same worn sidewalks, same faded signs, same gossip behind drawn curtains. But I wasn't the same girl they'd tossed out with a suitcase and a voicemail. I wasn't there for memories. I was there for the fundraiser. The irony wasn't lost on me. The same people who swore I'd never amount to anything were now raising funds to save the struggling community center. My old high school gym had been turned into an event space. Gold balloons, folding chairs, plastic champagne glasses, and at the front, my parents. They had no idea who was bankrolling the event. Not until my name echoed through the microphone. "This fundraiser is made possible by the generous support of our special guest, Miss Alyssa Carrington." A pause, then a gasp. Mom stood rigid, eyes wide. Dad dropped his drink. I walked onto the stage in a sharp black jumpsuit, heels clicking, the spotlight following me like a long-overdue apology. I didn't look at them. Not yet. I looked at the kids in the crowd. Kids who reminded me of myself at 17. Alone, scared, told they'd never measure up. "I grew up here," I said evenly. "I was called selfish for not sacrificing everything for people who gave me nothing but ultimatums. I was told I'd fail if I didn't obey." I turned, locking eyes with my parents in the front row. "They were wrong." Silence, then a wave of applause. The only 2 people not clapping were my mom and dad. Afterward, I wove through the crowd. My parents cornered me before I could slip away. "Alyssa," Mom began, her voice shaky. "That speech was over the top." I smiled. "Thanks." "It was true. You humiliated us," Dad snapped, "in front of the whole town." "You threw me out at 17 for saying no," I replied, then asked me to pay for a car I'd never even ride in. Mom huffed. "It was just a Mercedes. It wasn't even new." I stared at her. "Do you even hear yourself?" Then she revealed her real motive. Look, she said quickly, we're behind on the house. Your dad's pension fell through. We thought maybe. Now that you're doing well, Dad finished. I laughed, not cruelly, not loudly, just wearily. You made your choice 11 years ago. You picked my sister's comfort over my survival. You mocked me when I had nowhere to sleep. You haven't changed. You're just broke. You're our daughter, Mom whispered. No, I said. I was your contingency plan. Now I'm your last hope. I left them standing there, mouths agape. Hands empty, but it wasn't over. 3 days later, my lawyer delivered a notice. The house they were desperate to keep, they didn't own it anymore. It had gone into default, and one of my investment firms had quietly bought it 6 months earlier. A shell company, they never saw it coming. I gave them 30 days to leave. As poetic as it sounds, it wasn't about vengeance. It was about taking back the power they stole when I was 17. It was about ensuring the girl they discarded never again had to question her worth. And just as they once slammed a door on me, I closed one on them. Only this time it was marble and gold, not chipped wood and peeling paint. They stood on the lawn that day, bags packed, staring at the house like it had turned on them. But it hadn't. I had simply reclaimed what was always mine. The day I flew back to my hometown in a private jet, it wasn't meant to be dramatic. But life has a way of delivering full-circle moments. Moments that resonate with every "you'll never make it." Every locked door, every tear you hid in silence. The jet touched down just outside the old regional airport. I stepped out in a crisp white suit, designer sunglasses, and heels that clicked like a statement. Waiting by the gate were reporters, old classmates, and even the mayor. I'd funded half the airport's renovation under an alias. Today was the grand opening, but I knew they'd show up, and they did. My mom and dad stood just outside the terminal, looking like they hadn't slept. Mom in a drooping cardigan, Dad with a borrowed cane and hollow eyes. The eviction had hit them hard. They'd tried staying with my aunt, but that lasted 3 days. Then came the calls, the emails, then silence, until now. I walked past the cameras, past the cheers, and toward them. Please, my mom whispered. We're sorry, I raised an eyebrow. For what? Kicking me out, telling everyone I was ungrateful, calling me selfish when I wouldn't go into debt for my brother's wedding, Dad coughed. We thought you'd come back around. I did, I said. Just not how you expected. Mom took a shaky step forward. We're homeless. You're still better off than I was at 17, I said quietly. At least you have each other. Her face contorted. You'd leave your own parents on the street? I reached into my purse, pulled out a black envelope, and handed it to her. Inside was a card, the Carrington Shelter for Abandoned Youth, opening soon, fully funded by Alyssa Carrington. In honor of second chances, she looked puzzled. There's a room reserved for you, I said. Not in the shelter, in the volunteer office. You want help, start helping others. Dad's jaw tightened. You want us to work at a homeless shelter? No, I said. I want you to know what it's like to be invisible, dismissed, and judged, like you made me feel. Maybe then you'll get it. She crumpled the card. You're still bitter. No, I said with a calm smile. I'm whole. Bitter people seek revenge. Healed people build legacies and let karma handle the rest. I turned and walked to the waiting car. The driver opened the door. But before I got in, I looked back one last time. You taught me how to survive, I said, by making me believe I couldn't. Then I left. The crowd cheered as the black car drove off, but I didn't hear it. Because in my mind, I was thinking of that terrified, sobbing girl who once sat alone at a gas station with no phone, no money, and no one who cared. That girl deserved justice, and she finally got it. Today, I wasn't just Alyssa Carrington. I was proof that being cast out doesn't mean staying down. And the jet I stepped out of, it was just the start.